This is Manchester United, a global icon, a commercial juggernaut. But underneath the surface, the empire is crumbling. A plethora of losses which led to a 15th place finish in the league. A sad defeat in the Europa League final. The final itself was a microcosm of the chaos, not from a moment of opposition brilliance, but a calamitous error and a mountain of debt that has crippled this club for 2 decades. This is a sickness, a deep-rooted disease. The new ownership under Ineos saw the rot. They needed a fixer, someone to operate in the shadows, to make the ruthless decisions others couldn't. They didn't just need a manager. They needed me. My first task, a full audit, a deep dive into the club's very soul to understand the scale of the decay. What I found was horrifying. A £3.56 billion valuation that was nothing more than a house of cards, built on the ghosts of past glories. Brand and commercial revenue, £1.8 billion, the only thing holding them up. A legacy asset, living on fumes from a bygone era. Broadcast revenue, £650 million, a figure about to collapse after that Europa League failure. Stadium and infrastructure, £700 million. Old Trafford is iconic, but it's a relic, crumbling while our rivals build modern fortresses. The value of the first team squad, £300 million. This was the smoking gun. A squad with one of the highest wage bills in the world, valued at less than a mid-table side. Bloated, underperforming, and impossible to sell. And finally, financial health. A paltry £110 million, completely shackled by debt and the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules. They were financially trapped. The mission given to me by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Omar Barada was clear. This wasn't just a rebuild. It was a complete financial resurrection. The objectives are monumental. We will clear the £500 million debt. We will fix the FFP and PSR nightmare. We will raise the £2 billion to build a new theatre of dreams. We will shatter the United tax and become the smartest negotiators in the market. We will build a squad capable of sustained dominance. And the ultimate goal, to transform this crumbling giant into a self-sustaining £10 billion empire. To restore Manchester United to the absolute pinnacle of world football. The surgery begins now. Season 1. The objective was not victory, it was survival and surgery. The mission was clear. Hire a world-class manager, purge the deadwood, raise the technical ceiling of the squad, and fix the club's broken financial structure. My first move was the most delicate. Ruben Amorim is a fantastic coach, but the current state of the club is too big a task for him to handle. As he has established a 3-4-2-1 system, I've got to find a way to ensure continuity, but without him. To truly rip this club down to the studs, I needed a clean slate and a manager whose name alone was a statement of intent, and is excellent with the 3-4-2-1 system. I contacted Napoli with an offer they couldn't refuse. A direct managerial swap for Antonio Conte, sweetened with 2 of our best academy talents and one of our own 5-star scouts. They accepted. I then presented the opportunity to Ruben, a fresh start in Italy, away from the pressure of the English media, with a standing offer to be considered for a return once the club was stable. It was a move designed for mutual benefit. Ruben accepted. The deal was done. Conte was our man, Ruben moves to Naples. The purge could now begin under his authority. Then came the directive from the top. Sir Jim's email was short and to the point. He was pleased with the Conte appointment, but he set a personal challenge for me. Increase the club's valuation by 25% in 3 seasons. Failure was not an option. And just like that, the pressure was on. Now for the gigantic task. The squad was a mess of aging, low quality and underperforming players on high wages. The market knew it. Initial inquiries were met with insulting peanuts offers. Clubs weren't just uninterested, they were mocking us. So I got creative. West Ham needed experience but not his wages. I agreed to pay 10% of his salary for 1 year, framing it as a veteran leadership contribution fee to get the deal done. A pure profit sale. I highlighted his commercial appeal to Roma's American ownership, selling them not just a player, but a brand asset. Simeone needed an attacking wing-back. I sold him on Darlow, being the key to unlocking his entire right flank. A perfect fit for their system. Arteta needs a new left-back every summer. I was happy to grant his wish. Brighton wanted a ball-playing defender. I sold them on Maguire's underutilised passing range, packaging it with detailed statistical reports, whether they were true or not. With Kirkus gone to Liverpool, Bournemouth needed a budget-friendly replacement. I simply identified their desperation and sold them on Malaysia, being the perfect solution. With Eberechi Ez's departure imminent, Palace needed a new star. I didn't just sell them Mason Mount, I sold their fans the idea of Mount. I sponsored positive social media campaigns from neutral accounts hyping his potential arrival, creating public demand. Bournemouth needed a goalkeeping replacement. I used my relationship with their sporting director, highlighting Onana's distribution stats and convincing him that Onana was the key to unlocking their entire build-up play. A bargain for unlocking their team's potential. A masterpiece. I misled the media, letting it slip that his contract had an extra year. By the time Brentford realised he'd be free in 2 weeks, the deal was already signed. By releasing some senior players, I was clearing nearly £500,000 a week in wages. Minor sales, but every pound counts. And finally, sending our next generation out on strategic loans to gain vital experience. The squad was gutted. Now, to rebuild it. Intelligently, for the Matthias Cunha swap, I offered a sweetener. I used my network to personally negotiate a club record deal they wanted with a sleeve sponsor, acting as a ghost consultant. In return, they gave me my man for just Anthony plus 10 million. For Brian Mbomo, the process was tough. I served as a frontline negotiator in 3 complex deals they were stuck in and helped them secure an additional £40 million cumulatively. They got their way and I got a straight swap for Sancho. No cash involved. Bayindir plus 1 million. David deserved a proper send-off at this club, and parting with a decent number 2 was essential for Fiorentina to do a deal. A simple asset conversion. We swapped Rashford for a young, high-potential register to fit Conte's system. Højlund plus 50 million, a huge fee, but Gyökeres is a proven goal scorer, and Højlund gets a chance to develop away from the English media spotlight, sweetened by sending them our promising left-back Amas on loan. Made possible only by sending Everton 2 of our best youth prospects on a 2-season loan. Secured by loaning them our young striker, Wheatley, a raw gem unearthed by our new scouting network. The transfer window was a whirlwind of creative negotiation, and the results spoke for themselves. A straight swap for Brian Mbomo, a player worth £65 million, instantly saved us £40 million. We then saved another £20 million on the Matthias Cunha deal. This level of efficiency was precisely the reason Ineos had brought me in. And while the balance sheet was our priority, trophies were the byproduct of competence. We swept the domestic cups. Winning the FA Cup was particularly poignant. To see David De Gea, a club legend we brought back for one last dance, lift that trophy at Wembley. It was a reminder of what this club is all about. A perfect storybook ending to his chapter here. The financial report for Season 1 tells the story. Total income surpassed £1 billion, driven by over 230 million in player sales and 165 million in prize money from our domestic cup double and 5th place league finish. Total expenditure was kept under £400 million. This resulted in a staggering net profit of over £639 million, while we cleared more than £1.17 million a week from the wage bill. The club's valuation soared by £690 million in a single year, bringing our new total valuation to £4.21 billion. The surgery was brutal, and the patient was on the road to recovery. Every objective we set for Season 1 was crushed. We hired a world-class manager, purged the deadwood, and rebuilt our entire scouting network. We slashed the wage bill and improved our FFP position by over 35%. With a transformed squad and 2 trophies already in the cabinet, the books were balanced. But this was only the beginning. This was just the foundation. Now, with Sir Jim's challenge ringing in my ears, it was time to unleash the true power of our new model. It was time to build. The surgery of Season 1 was over. Season 2 was about building and doing so consistently. With our PSR and FFP position already improved by 35%, the aim was for full compliance by the end of the financial year. More importantly, Sir Jim's personal challenge loomed, a 25% increase in club valuation. I was given 3 seasons. I planned to deliver in just 18 months. The objectives were clear. Pay off 25% of the club debt, begin raising funds for the new stadium, and secure a top 3 Premier League finish. But we hit an immediate political roadblock. Due to Ineos's multi-club ownership dispute with Nice, UEFA attempted to demote us to the Conference League. I made the decision instantly. We declined! Manchester United will no longer give in to mediocrity. Refusing to compete in the Conference League meant that we would not play European football for yet another season. With our focus now solely on domestic dominance, the plan had to accelerate. Before we attacked the market, we looked inwards. Our revamped scouting network was already yielding results, identifying 2 academy talents ready for integration: young Sierra Leonean goalkeeper Samuel Rumpfer and English attacking midfield starlet Ewan Mann. 2 more assets added to the portfolio, costing us nothing but opportunity. Then the onslaught began. This window was about one thing: aggressive, high-profit asset flipping. Ravella, the midfield dictator, we acquired in the Rashford swap. After one great season, his value skyrocketed. I turned a want-away player into a 9-figure profit. I signed Esposito on a free transfer in July, a zero-cost asset. By August, I had created a market for him as a proven Serie A striker and sold him to West Ham for pure profit. The most controversial move, selling our captain to our rivals. But £125 million for a 31-year-old? Sentiment doesn't build stadiums. This was a cold, calculated business decision. Lisandro's time here was plagued by injuries. I sold him to Chelsea before his value could drop any further. We paid £15 million for Mazraoui in 2024. After 2 solid seasons, I flipped him back to the Bundesliga for a £35 million profit. The model was working. Even minor sales contribute to the war chest. More academy graduates sold for pure profit, funding our operational costs. Now, to reinvest with surgical precision, I used De Gea as a make-weight, sending him plus £17 million for one of the best young keepers in the world. It helped that David wanted to fulfill a dream of playing in France. To replace Lisandro, we needed a dominant presence. The young striker, Xerxes, plus £20 million secured us Germany's future defensive leader. My masterpiece, a 16-year-old generational talent. I made a bold claim to the board. He'll be better than Lamine Yamal within 5 years. Arsenal fought tooth and nail to keep him, but the player was sold on our ambitious project. I sent them our own high-potential youngster, Bouwadi, plus £25 million. They thought they got a deal. I knew I'd just stolen the future. To replace Bruno, I didn't buy a veteran. I bought the future. Younger, higher potential, and a marketing dream. Next, a multi-layered move. First, I secured the veteran CDM Forster on a free, a zero-cost piece for the chessboard. But Forster wasn't meant for our pitch. He was bait. I immediately flipped him, plus £500,000 in cash, to Southampton to acquire the promising midfielder, Dragovic. But even Dragovic was a stepping stone. Southampton regretted letting him go, and I knew it. I used their desperation, sending Dragovic right back to them plus £20 million to secure our real target. The high upside of Larson made it a necessary complex 3-move combo to get our man. And to complete our summer business, I added Ben Seguier, a versatile, high-potential attacker for a bargain fee. And then, Delap, demanding a move to our most bitter rivals. Unforgivable. He is no longer welcome at Old Trafford, or the new stadium for that matter. Lucky for him, Liverpool met our exorbitant asking price. If they hadn't, he would have been training late at night and early in the morning for the rest of the season. I immediately tried to sign Atalanta's wonder kid centre forward, Hardy, a player who, let's be honest, makes their last big sale, Højlund, look like a practice cone. But they wouldn't budge on their terms. The old United would have overpaid. We walked away. We conduct business on our terms, or not at all. On the pitch, the team was clicking. We unleashed a historic demolition of West Ham, ironically, with Delap scoring a hat-trick before his betrayal. We beat City to lift the EFL Cup, but losing the FA Cup final to a Bruno Fernandes winner caused a meltdown. The fans were furious. I issued a press release immediately. I reminded them of the financial black hole we had inherited. I promised them that the painful sales were necessary to build a dynasty. It was a calculated risk to absorb the anger. The fans were angry, but the numbers don't lie. All Season 2 objectives had been met. Player sales of over £500 million fueled a total income of nearly £1.4 billion, resulting in a staggering net profit of over £550 million and a current club valuation of £5.99 billion. The Giants were awake, and next season, Europe would hear them roar. The fans' anger was a fire I would use as fuel. After 2 years of painful surgery and rehabilitation, the time for excuses was over. We were now the healthiest club in the world in terms of FFP and PSR. The giant was awake, and Europe was about to be put on notice. With the season's objectives clear, pay down more debt, continue to raise the £2 billion fund for the stadium, execute more nine-figure sales, and compete for everything, I sent a final confirmation to Sir Jim. The 25% valuation challenge he set was not just met, it was obliterated. Now, the real work of building an empire could begin. Our return to the Champions League meant we were no longer just a smart club. We were a destination. This transfer window wasn't about plugging gaps. It was about adding world-class firepower. I started by selling Ben Seghir, a player I signed for £17.5 million, to our rivals, Liverpool, for over £200 million. They were desperate for an attacking midfielder, and I made them pay a premium for every drop of his potential. Larsson was sold to Brentford for nearly £90 million. They'd qualified for Europe and needed a midfield anchor. I identified their need and exploited it for a massive profit. This is the system perfected. We signed the free agent Ray 11 months ago. We now sell him for £13.5 million. Pure, effortless profit. And again with Rodriguez, signed for free 4 weeks ago. £10 million for a player who never even kicked a ball for the club. More academy products sold to fund the machine. But the Ben Seghir deal had a hidden masterstroke. The only reason I sanctioned the Seghir sale was because it unlocked this separate deal. I used the negotiations to acquire their 17-year-old gem, Ribeiro, for peanuts. I've changed the landscape. I now extort rivals for players who wouldn't make our bench. And in return, I take their best young talent for less than a tenth of the price. Real Madrid wanted Schlotterbeck. I told them the only way was a straight swap for Pau Torres, a player with a £180 million release clause and valued 40% higher. To convince them, I personally brokered a complex 3-team deal that allowed them to offload 2 unwanted players to other clubs, freeing up the wages to make the swap happen. I solved their problems so they could solve mine. Another free agent, Sarkisian, was then immediately packaged with £20 million for Balaba. Brighton thought they were getting an experienced midfielder and cash. In reality, I used a free asset to acquire a dominant ball winner for a fraction of his market value. Another masterclass. I took Ugarte, a player who hadn't hit his expected heights, and leveraged Leverkusen's long-standing interest. I structured the deal as a swap, plus a mere £7 million to get Boniface, an elite top-5 striker, to be our second option. It was a heist in plain sight. And finally, a smart, value-for-money signing, swapping an academy prospect, plus a small fee for the high-potential Mora. I even tried to bring in Arda Güler, offering them our academy graduate Charlie Perkins plus £30 million. They refused. Frankly, it's their loss. They underestimate the value of the talent we are producing. With the squad elevated to a new level, I moved to secure our core. Kobbie Mainoo is central to everything we are building. This new contract ensures that his future at the club is assured. My faith in the academy was paying dividends. Ewan Man, promoted just last season, was now contributing, and then he did the unthinkable, scoring a hat-trick to dismantle our city rivals. We weren't just buying success, we were building it from the ground up. The FA Cup final against Arsenal wasn't just a match, it was a message. We delivered a 4-1 Wembley demolition. Boniface scored the opener, before a cheeky Saka equaliser and a nearly comeback for the Gunners. This ignited a ruthless Victor Boniface hat-trick, with Ewan Man also scoring. After last year's heartbreak against our noisy neighbours, this was vengeance. With Matheus Cunha rested, Kobbie Mainoo captained the side, perhaps a glimpse of what's to come in the future. Our path to the final was paved with dominance. The highlight, a trip to the Parc des Princes where I watched a team largely assembled by my skillful negotiations, led by Antonio Conte, unleash a 6-1 demolition of Paris Saint-Germain, with Cunha and Gyökeres both scoring braces. It was a warning shot fired across the bow of European royalty. The final against AC Milan was supposed to be the pinnacle of European football. Instead, it became a showcase of our terrifying power. This wasn't a contest, it was a coronation, a demolition on the grandest stage of all, cementing our return not just as champions, but as the new undisputed kings of the continent. The season ended in a shower of silverware and financial dominance. A net profit of over £340 million, half of the club's initial debt, cleared, and the stadium fund now sitting at a healthy 750 million. The club's value now stood at a staggering £7.69 billion. Every objective, except for winning the league, was not just met, it was crushed. We had done it. Champions of Europe, financially dominant. The club was a powerhouse again. But power attracts unwanted attention. Power doesn't just attract attention, it attracts opportunity. The email wasn't a threat. It was a challenge from Apex Asset Group, a mysterious private equity firm impressed by our model, an offer that could fast-track the fundraising for the new stadium. Their proposal was audacious. Generate over £900 million in player sales this summer, and they would inject £1 billion into our stadium project on July 1st, 2029. All they asked for in return was a partial blueprint of my negotiation tactics. The objectives for the season were now monumental. I had to secure that £1 billion private investment, clear the final £250 million of club debt, internally generate another £500 million for the stadium fund, and deliver on a personal promise. A £150 million investment into Salford City FC, a club that represents the soul of the class of '92 and a perfect place to develop our next generation. And on top of it all, win the Premier League and compete for the Champions League. They wanted my secrets. I wanted their cash. The game was on. I opened by targeting Rodrigo. PSG accepted my offer, but the player's wage demands were astronomical. I could have made him the best paid footballer in the world. But that is not the Manchester United way. Not anymore. I do things on my terms, or I walk. The same happened with Musiala. I negotiated a masterclass deal, agreeing a fee for less than half his market value. But again, the wage demands were designed to break my structure. I pulled out instantly. I don't just build a team, I build a culture. With my targets proving difficult, I pivoted. If I couldn't buy on my terms, I would sell on them. And the world was about to see a masterclass in value creation. I opened by selling our Champions League winning keeper to our city rivals for £195.5 million. It was a sign of ultimate strength. I was so confident in my talent pipeline that I could sell a world-class player to them and still come out on top. Boniface was unhappy with his game time, but PSG didn't know that. I kept it under wraps, projecting an image of a vital, untouchable player. I created a sense of desperation in them, and they paid handsomely for a player I was happy to move on. Then, the big one. Chelsea wanted to make a statement. They offered to double Simon's salary, forcing his hand. I didn't cave. I used his desire to leave as leverage, turning their power play against them to negotiate a mind-blowing world record fee of £305.5 million. Some decisions are tough. I had high hopes for Toby Collier, but it became clear he couldn't quite cut it at the absolute top level. A sale to Celtic was the best move for both the player and the club's balance sheet. Harry Amass was tired of loans and wanted a permanent home. I respected his wishes and secured a clean, profitable deal with Norwich. And finally, two more academy prospects, Habe and Vainis, were sold to fund the war chest. With the initial sales bringing in over £700 million, I began to strategically reinvest. To replace Xavi Simons, I didn't spend a fortune. I identified Soulé as the perfect fit and used another promising academy player, plus a small fee to get my man. Next, I leveraged PSG's need to balance their books, securing the high-potential Doué in a player plus cash deal that represented a £55 million swing in my favour. I then targeted the next Okocha. I took the young asset I acquired from Liverpool, Ribeiro, and packaged him with £1 million for Boateng. While 5 super clubs were in a bidding war for the 16-year-old wingback, Fischer, I bypassed the boardrooms. I privately negotiated a youth player swap directly with Dortmund's academy director, poaching their prized asset from under everyone's noses. The team was rebuilt. The war chest was overflowing. Sales were well over £700 million. But I still needed one final push to get over the £900 million line from my investor. This required a move that would define our window. Our star striker, Gyökeres, was our single most valuable asset. The time was right to cash in. I needed Sesko, so I leaked to my most trusted media contacts that a PIF-backed Saudi club had already secured him. It was a bluff, but it worked. The competition vanished overnight. I then encouraged Sesko to push for the move, weakening Leipzig's position and allowing me to swoop in for a fraction of his worth. With Sesko secured, I called Arsenal. They had missed out on their primary target and seen Chelsea make a world record statement. They were desperate. I offered them a ready-made world-class replacement in Gyökeres. They paid a desperate price. The single biggest fee in football history, a gigantic £395 million. With the transfer business and our investors' challenge complete, I fulfilled a promise, a £150 million injection into Salford City FC, strengthening our ties to the class of '92 and opening a vital pathway for our future academy graduates. And speaking of the future, with Chevalier gone, the world expected a blockbuster signing. Instead, I turned to Carrington. Samuel Rumpfer, the boy from Sierra Leone we promoted 2 seasons ago, was handed the #1 shirt. I don't just buy the best, I create them. The new look team was devastating. Sesko announced his arrival with a debut hat-trick in the Super Cup, proving to be the lethal finisher I knew he was. We reclaimed the Premier League title. Not since 2013 had this club been champions of England, but we did it in enthralling fashion. Ahmad against Chelsea, Cunha and Doué tormenting Newcastle, Mainu's winner at Anfield, and Mbomo's derby stunner against City. And in Europe, it doesn't get better than this. After a 6-0 demolition of Real Madrid, where Ahmad, Cunha, Mbomo and Baliba all found the net, we defeated Liverpool 3-0 in the Champions League final, with Mainu, Cunha and Doué scoring to seal back-to-back titles. The season was a resounding success. On the back of an income of nearly £2.3 billion, driven by a record £1.1 billion in player sales, we generated a net profit of over £870 million. With all objectives met, the club's debt was finally cleared, and our valuation now stood at a colossal £9.54 billion. The investors' challenge obliterated, back-to-back European champions. I had reached the peak of the mountain. There was only one thing left to do: plant my flag and secure my own legacy. Sir Jim's email was a proposal born from the sheer scale of our success. The offer: a chance for me to secure a 1% personal ownership stake in the club I had rebuilt from the ashes. The condition: one final monumental achievement: to cross the £10 billion valuation mark. The objectives for my final season were clear. I had to secure my personal stake by hitting that £10 billion valuation. I had to deliver on a promise to fund the Manchester United women's team to the tune of £300 million. And on the pitch, I demanded perfection, the historic treble. With my own legacy on the line, the final window was about perfecting the machine for one last historic push. I began by selling our captain, De Ligt, at the age of 30, a necessary move to open a pathway for the next generation of world-class centre-backs I was developing. Branthwaite wanted more game time. I respected his ambition and capitalised on it. AC Milan thought they'd secured a marquee signing in Joe Bellingham. They were unaware of the disciplinary issues behind the scenes that led me to sanction the sale. Sometimes, the best deals are the problems you sell to others. For Sesko, disrespecting Antonio Conte was the final straw. In the past, such behaviour would have been swept under the rug, as player power was prevalent at this club. Not anymore. I created a media circus, sparking a bidding war between Chelsea and Real Madrid. Madrid ultimately failed to agree to terms, which only made Chelsea more desperate. They paid a colossal fee to make their statement. I took Sole, a smart signing from last season, and flipped him for a 9-figure sum. A perfect example of my model. Varga, the prospect I bought from Mexico, was never destined for our first team, and Dortmund paid a handsome price for him. And the Carrington production line was now a world-class pool of talents, while being a self-sustaining financial engine. Wheatley, Stevens, Oliver, Bartlett, Millen, and Helder Ribeiro, all sold for massive profits. With the sales complete, I made my final surgical additions to the treble-chasing squad. First, the one that got away. A contract dispute at Cadiz allowed me to reacquire our former prospect, Diogo Ribeiro, for a pittance. I then immediately packaged him to finally land Hardy from Atalanta, the striker I always wanted. David De Gea's connections at his former club helped me open the door for a player plus cash deal for Guillaume Rest, one of Europe's most promising young keepers, whose primary role would be to provide healthy competition for Rumpfer, not usurp him. As a thank you for my consultation on their new Puma deal, Manchester City allowed me to sign another top defensive talent from Sierra Leone, Juma Ba. My influence now transcends my own club, and again, Real Madrid. I acted as a ghost consultant on 2 of their major transfers, saving them over £50 million. In return, they gave me the baller, Quenda, no fee involved. A necessary injection of world-class quality into our midfield, as I secured Eduardo Camavinga from Inter Milan for £70 million. I then completed a strategic acquisition for the promising winger Lassana Koulibaly from the Ineos-associated club Nice for £49 million. And for my final trick, Koulibaly, who I signed from Nice just 12 days earlier, was included in a player plus cash deal for the highly talented Antonio Nusa, a world-class winger Leipzig coveted. And then came deadline day, a final saga of high-stakes, high-profit manoeuvring. With AC Milan flexing their new Saudi-backed financial muscle, they were desperate to make a statement. With Mike Maignan announcing a shock retirement, they needed a worthy replacement. I negotiated another masterclass and sold Richest to them, the goalkeeper I signed just 1 month ago for £175 million. Cunha wanted a new challenge. I sparked a transfer duel between the German powerhouses FC Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. I played them against each other until the price reached a sky-high £271 million, with Leverkusen securing his signature. Having lost out on Cunha, Bayern were desperate. The striker I'd chased for 3 seasons and owned for 5 weeks, sold for a gargantuan £190 million. The perfect storm of opportunity and manipulation. And at my very best, I replaced Hardy with an even better striker. I sent an academy player plus cash to Leeds for their 25-year-old, 90-rated superstar, Pascal Fischer, an £80 million valuation swing in our favour. We had just sold our captain and a young world-class striker on the same day. And yet, our squad was still, without question, the best in Europe. Having assembled a squad that was the best in class in world football, with only 1 player over 30, I authorised a significant and befitting pay rise. Kobbie Mainoo's new contract reflected his emergence as an elite deep-lying playmaker. For a position so crucial to our success, his increase was a no-brainer. Carlos Balaba's reward was for his dominant work as a defensive midfielder. His tireless ball-winning and defensive contributions were key to providing security, so we ensured his wages now reflect his immense value in that vital role. And Lenny Yoro's deal was sealed to match his rapid ascent to one of the world's most promising young centre-backs. His defensive maturity and leadership at such a young age warranted a significant raise to secure our future at the back. As club captain Matheus Cunha had departed, I instructed Conte to give the armband to our Carrington star, Kobbie Mainoo. With Kobbie, I had overseen his youth, inspired his courage. It was now time to position him for unrivaled success. The moments were iconic. A Désiré Doué Stuna took the team a step closer to a consecutive league title. And then, our academy gem, Ewan Mann, channeled his inner Solskjaer, coming off the bench to score the goal that secured our 22nd league title. With the FA Cup final not going according to plan, Antonio Conte brought on super sub Ewan yet again, and boy did he deliver. He scored the crucial equaliser before providing the assist for the winning goal in what was a stunning FA Cup comeback against Arsenal. Alexander De Vries, the wonder kid I stole from the Gunners, put his former side to the sword by scoring the winner in the final. En route to a 3rd successive UEFA Champions League final, the lads were devastating. The script could not get better than this. A historic final against Benfica at Old Trafford. They were the Red Devils' first victim in a resounding 4-1 European triumph in 1968. They must have been back for more. The lads turned the theatre of dreams into an ocean of nightmares for the Portuguese giants. And a special display was capped with a breathtaking free kick from Brian Mboma. Champions of Europe for the 3rd time in a row. Our Sierra Leonean keeper, Samuel Rumpfer, repaid the faith Conte and I showed in him by winning the Golden Glove in the Premier League. A majestic treble, skippered by Mr. Kobbie Mainoo, now one of the best midfielders in the world. It was a testament to this club's creed. Youth, courage, success. We were fulfilling a legacy. And at the pinnacle of it all was Brian Mboma, the man I acquired in a straight swap from Brentford 5 years ago. Now, wearing the famed number 7 shirt, he won the Ballon d'Or, the Golden Boot, and Player of the Year. He celebrated his Ballon d'Or coronation in style at Old Trafford with a filthy Messi-esque dink to seal his first half hat-trick. He inspired the FA Cup comeback against Arsenal by giving his team the lifeline and laid it on a plate for the equaliser. He could do it all: the Panenka, a rocket, a mazy dribble ending with a deft chip over the goalkeeper, a nicely cushioned header, a stunning free kick, an acrobatic worldie. Brian was undoubtedly the best thing since CR7, an absolute testament of my model. I then fulfilled my final legacy promise, a £300 million injection to revolutionise the women's team, ensuring that they not only compete with the best, but lead the best. Our commitment to the women's team development attracted a significant international investment from a renowned clothing brand in Beijing, China. The season was a resounding success. Player sales topped £1.5 billion. Add the £1 billion private investment and over £300 million in prize money, and our final year's income was a staggering £3.7 billion, a final net profit of nearly £2.9 billion. With a valuation of £10.86 billion, my legacy at Manchester United was secure. I arrived as a fixer to a club in ruins. After 5 years, I now own a part of it. A global empire built not on reckless spending, but on cold, hard, ruthless intelligence. And now, the whispers begin. They say Real Madrid and Barcelona want to hand me the keys to their kingdoms, that PSG's owners see me as their final piece, that the giants of the Premier League, Chelsea and Arsenal, as well as the titans of Germany, FC Bayern Munich, are preparing historic offers. They ask me, what's next? Do I stay and rule over the empire I now own a piece of? Or do I find another giant, sleeping and sick, and teach them how to conquer the world all over again?